Good evening. How are we all this evening? Right, sorry, I was just juggling because I try and share this across multiple places. You quite often see me scurrying down here. It's because I've got, if I move off the laptop, I lose the, what's it called? Live dashboard, which is very technical. But just trying to make it all work. So I think I've shared it across a few places because tonight we're going to have a bit of fun. I don't know, anybody that watches Reels, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, a circle waterfall has come up an awful lot. And if you know me, you know I'm not a massive fan of having to follow measurements because multiple reasons. One, I usually mess it up. And two, I like to be able to scale things up and down. So I have been working on a no measure method for a circle waterfall. The fun bit is to get to do that. Good evening, Carol. To get to do that, I need something to make waterfall. So I thought we would start by doing one of my favourite things, which is what I call a waste not, want not. Sometimes they're called mood boards, master boards I've seen. They used to be called serendipity squares, but I call them waste not, want nots because the whole point of them is that you use all your scrappy bits, all of this, all of these bits that I've got beside me here, and we just have fun. There's a map here, it's probably got bits missing from it. We've got some sheet music, we've got all sorts here. Good evening, everybody. One of my particular favourites is some of my old comic books, which are westerns and sci-fi, and they're from the lovely Keith. Melissa's dad got them and said, would I like them? And it's like, oh yes, they're really good fun. So we're going to use some of those. Oh, hang on, just played up too much. And what I love about this, and I was saying to Sue earlier, what I love about this particular thing that we're about to do is that it's a no-brainer thing. You don't have to think. You can just sit, create. Evening, Sue. Evening, Hazel. Hope you're feeling all right. Yeah, so it's one of those things that, you know, when you sit there and you've got time to create, but you haven't got anything, or your mind goes completely blank. This is one of those things to do. And what you get from it is fabulous. You get toppers, you get bits to use in journals. And you just, it's very liberating because there's no rules. Okay, so going to switch to overhead camera. And first thing is I've got all my, I mean, I might not use all of these because I just love these anyway, but if there's some damaged pages, I will. We're just going to get our scraps, and I haven't sorted these other than the fact I happen to have a basket left over from the last book binding. So and then I'm just tearing this up, okay, into, you can go as small as you want with these pieces. The smaller you go, the longer it's going to take you to do. Don't normally tear up Cambridge print, but there's only a little bit left. Although, to be fair, Cambridge print isn't that too expensive. Right, bit of that. I tend to just sort of make a big pile. Bit more of that. I mean, these aren't overly scrappy bits. It was just what I grabbed. Bit of dictionary. Yeek. Just no method, and it is best to tear rather than cut, but if you have a load of bits already cut up, I'm not going to use that front cover only because I think that might be a nice for something else. And I say normally I wouldn't be using whole sheets like this, it would be my scraps. Yeah, everybody's got tons of scraps because we always do the whole save it and see what we can do with it. This was a bit of an eco print that, actually I think it was when I was eco printing, it was one of the sort of buffer sheets. Okay, a little bit of this. A bit more of a eco print there. Few bits, a bit of that paper, and might put a bit of doily in. Might not end up using it, but it's there. Again, that's been eco-printed. Bit of map. What is this map? The River Thames. Wow. Berkshire. Cookham. Is it the whole of the Thames? Oh, there's the back of the Thames. In which case, which way is it going? Well, that's quite cool, isn't it? Anyway, we'll have a bit of that. That looks very Lech Lady on the front there. I'm not saying this map is old, but check out the sort of outfits there. That's fabulous. Right. We'll have a bit of that map as well. Obviously, maps go out of date. I know river maps less likely. Dictionaries are really good. And again, it is something that goes out of date. So you can sort of use it almost guilt-free because the chances are they're out of date. There'll be words in there that aren't relevant anymore or have a change of meaning. You know the sorts of things. I mean, you read school textbooks from the 60s and 70s and you think, whew, how was that allowed? But times change. Right, the next important thing, and this is for people like our lovely Hazel, who sometimes gets a little bit organised with this. Mix them up, okay? That's as much as the thought process is going on. Okay, next we get our piece of card. I'm going back to my glue in a pot. So this is just normal cheap PVA, put in the pot earlier, smear it around and start sticking. Don't. Hi Marv, that was a very excited run up here. What are you trying to tell me? Okay, so we're just randomly sticking it on. I can hear footsteps. And it's not Marvin unless he's wearing size 10 work boots. Are you, Marv? Are you wearing size 10 work boots? Right, so again, not thinking about this. And because I've mixed this pile up here, I'm not getting two pieces the same. Anywhere where it overlaps, because you've got glue on your sponge, you can start to glue these edges down. But you know, you don't get too hung up on it. And again, also don't get too hung up on going over the side. We can trim that down in a bit. So just a bit of glue and slap it on. And again, because we've got this sponge, we can just get these little edges down. Okay, just sticking it without really thinking about it. I'm going to put a bit of that doily on. So it's going to show that white through. So the idea is we don't want to see any of the base card left. If we get a little bit showing through like we have on the doily, it's not the end of the world. But the trick is to just fill it. Okay. And again, because I've got glue on this sponge, if I feel I need to add a little bit so that I can fill in gaps, I can use that like a gluey ink pad kind of thing. But it just means that I'm getting things down really nice and quickly without having to worry too much. Okay, and we want to cover this whole piece of card. And that's why using this glue is good, because I can just slap it on. I'm not having to be frugal. What are you up to, little puppy dog? You're acting suspicious. A suspicious puppy dog. He'll go to sleep in a minute, I should think. Okay, so just... And this is what I love about it. There's no planning, there's no rhyme, there's no reason. We're just filling in the gaps. Now, if you look at your pile of scraps and you think, well, actually, I've got a bit too much book page, you know, you can grab something else and just throw it into the mix, but it doesn't really matter. A bit more of that sheet music. So every so often, just look if there's bits that are sticking up. And again, because we've got this gluey sponge, it's so easy just to, right, whoever missed. Right, Vina, Maxine, Elspeth, hello, how are we all? So yeah, I can just use that. Oh, there must have been 2 doilies together. Oh, good, double bubble. So although I've got the glue on the back, I can also use this to get more glue down. So it's almost like a decoupage glue. See, and it's quite quickly, it's starting to fill the gaps. Now there's a bit more book page here, but it's very different text. So we'll have a bit of that, a bit more glue. So although it seems like I'm slapping loads of glue on here, because I'm spreading it about with the sponge, it's not an excess. Bit of that with the Cambridge print showing. Bit of this map. Can we see many gaps? There's a little gap there. Let's have a bit. Oh, that one. Just oh, there, I was really looking for size there. Don't overthink it. And the more random your papers are, the more interest you will have. But at the moment, don't try planning. The trick with this is no planning. The point of this is to just liberate and give you something, because as soon as we start planning, we have a preconception of what we want it to look like. And before you know it, you're disappointed because it's not, because our brains are at like AI and can do anything. So just, I mean, I probably might not even be using this bit down here, but I'm still going to fill every little bit of it. Bit more map. Okay. And I think I am just about there. I think so. Right. Then I'm going to let the glue dry a little bit before I trim off sides. Now, quite often with this is a sort of, you can let it dry in between all these stages, but on the same note, you don't have to. I've just noticed I haven't got any of this paper, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of that there. Right, so next stage is we're going to add some colour to it. We're going to use some paints. Now, pure coincidence, and it could also be because I haven't tidied up and changed everything, but I'm going with the same paints that I've had in the studio for a little while, which is the lime, the orange and the rust red. These could be any colours, okay? And I'm just going to pop the tins. These could be any colours, these could be any paints, okay? So I'm popping the tins and I'm going to do, again, I'm not thinking about it. So I'm just using a bit of card. You could use an old credit card to do this, just to spread a bit of colour around. Kitchen towel so I don't contaminate my colours. Or a flannel. Okay. So literally no thought processes. Randomness personified. Okay. By scraping, see, apart from the fact you get lovely texture, you're also not obliterating what's underneath because it's going on quite thin. If I painted with a paintbrush, there's a risk of actually covering up all that lovely interest that's underneath. Okay. And now we're going to come in with some orange. And I'm going to turn my paper. This paper does not have a top, it doesn't have a bottom, it's a paper. And the reason I do that is because it's easier for me to scrape sort of towards myself than it is going left to right. So it just means that I can get a bit of paint going the other way. I'm also aware that I haven't got anything on the edges here, so let's do this a different way. Let's take our sponge and just add a bit with the scrapey bit there. Add a bit of orange. Getting quite a nice bit of colour there. And finally a bit of that rust red, which I've never seen a rust this colour, but you know. Okay, I'm happy with those colours. Not thought about it. I mean, we know these colours work together because we've used them before. I'm going to be very tidy and pop the lids on. And I am going to give this a little dry just because we're going to do some things on top of this, and only a quick, because it's gone on quite thin. It's not going to be ages to dry. Just want to get it a little bit dry so that if I'm moving stencils and things like that around, I'm not interfering too much with the colours. Okay. Just, there we go. That green is beautiful, that lime green, and I love the fact it's got quite a transparency to it, so it does go over things really nicely, and it just gives a real pop of colour. Okay, again, I'm not really thinking, so I've just grabbed the same stencils we had last week, which is the Heroic and the Bamboo, and on this one we're going to use a little bit of filler. Okay, just a little bit in that corner, a bit over there, a bit in the middle. So even though it's picking up a bit of the paint as well, doesn't matter. There's kind of no rules with this. In fact, I kind of like it where it's picked up a bit of the colour. Yep, got a bit on my finger. Put that in the box over there. Let's do a little bit of the bamboo now. Again, with what's still on my finger. That's picking up the colour from the stencil as well. Okay. Yeah, this is what I love about this. You can get to a stage you go, actually, I love it like that, and I can leave it like that. But I'm going to show you all the sort of stages you can go through. I am going to have to just give this another quick blast because I am going to do a little bit of embossing powder. And I don't want the embossing powder to stick to everything. So we might be a little bit more controlled with the embossing powder. And there's two ways you can be controlled with the embossing powder. One is dry everything so that it's not going to stick where you... And the other is sprinkle your embossing powder and let it stick to the paint. So let's do a little bit of that. Now, in terms of the embossing powders, again, I've not overthought it. I've just grabbed ones. So we've got terracotta. So let's just sprinkle a bit of that. Might not cling. Bit there. But by sprinkling it, I'm not going to overpower anything else. You know, it's not, if I'm not doing the usual tip it on and, you know, then tip it off like you would with a stamped image. Just adding, because this will give it a little bit of a shine because everything else is quite matte. Bit of there. It might stick to the polyfiller as well. You knew what that was. The great thing with this is it's not just the fact that it comes out looking really fun, is the liberation of actually doing it, because anybody can do this. And you don't have to have the embossing pad. If you haven't got embossing powder, don't use it. Use mica sprays. And I've got a little bit of burgundy. We know I like my burgundy. I mean, I'm not sure how much this is going to stick. So when I turn my heat gun on in a minute, we might lose half of this. Some of it's going to stick because I can see that the paint is still wet. I'm just going to try and get some areas where it's a little bit thicker, like down here. Okay, I think we're ready to whack on the heat gun. Could lose it all now. If we do lose it all, we just go in with the glue in a minute and add some. It is a lot harder to see when this has melted, by the way. So just take your time. and it will go, obviously you'll see the shininess. And that's what gives it the nice interest against the matte background, the matte texture paste. Say I'm using polyfiller. Oh no, your internet's not, it's all right. I'll download it and upload it to YouTube like normal. Are you home now, Mira? Because that would be ironic if you were. Because you was watching from a caravan last week. So you can see the terracotta's turned there. Now some of this is blowing away, but we're still getting enough. I've got quite a little bit of terracotta there. If I move slowly, so as not to blow it away, you also might get a little bit of bubbling as well if there's wet paint underneath. Just go with it. Is my mic too close to my chin there? Sorry if my chin is whacking off the microphone. Oh, that dark green, that's really nice. Might come back with a little bit more of that in a minute. And this is the great thing. It's nothing at the moment. You're just creating interest. So if you want more dark green, throw more on. So what we need to do is, now obviously this is dry, the embossing powder will need something to stick to if we are going to add more embossing powder, which I think we might do. So just keep checking that it has all melted, because it is really hard to see, especially when you're trying not to lean over and block the camera. I think it's just about, it's dry enough for what I want anyway. So you see it's got that little pocket, so we might come back. I am going to trim off these excess at the moment, so turn it over, trim off. It's always a little bit easier to do when this is dry. Did you have a lovely time, Mira? The weather seemed to turn a little bit. I hope it wasn't too bad. I mean, was it yesterday? I went out, no, it might have been the day before. I went out in my proper thick coat for the morning walk. But by the afternoon, it was back to, you know, normal spring weather. That's how much moisture was in there when I heated it. So let's just clean that up a little bit. There we go. So, am I happy with how much embossing powder I've got on there? What do we reckon? I think we'll have a bit more. So, let's get some more. So this time, because we've dried stuff, we need to give the embossing powder something to stick to. So I am just simply dipping my finger in the glue and smearing some glue so that I can come in with the embossing powder and add that. Now I really liked this dark green. Now I could, because we know most of it's dry, I could do the normal traditional over the top and tip it off, but because I potentially want to add some of the other colours in and I don't want to contaminate, I am going to do the pinch method, because now I can't even remember where I put my glue. Common problem. Okay, it's a little bit there. And I think I'm going to come in with the burgundy. I think the terracotta, as nice as it is, has actually got a little bit lost in the orange. So I'm not going to do the terracotta, I'm going to do the burgundy. And sometimes you'll notice that. You'll say, oh, actually, that's a bit too similar to there, so it's not bringing much to the party. Okay, sprinkle that. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. Here we go. Now this is likely to bubble because I've got glue underneath it. Right, this is why I love Waste Not, Want Nots. It is already half an hour and I've still got to show you how to actually make this up into a card. And I've just got lost in doing this. And that is what is so good about these. They are so therapeutic. So I was going to do I might still do some black marks on it just to give a bit of contrast. So just make sure all of this, can you see this bubbling? Can you see that? That's the glue drying and letting out air. And sometimes what happens is, as it cools and the embossing powder sets, you actually capture that texture. So this is what's nice, because you can experiment as well. Right. I also wanted some gilding flake on here as well, just to give it a bit of sparkle. So let's do gilding flake next. I'm really running out of this lovely glue. This lovely like glue stick. We're down to the sort of, you see I'm picking it out with my finger. But this is lovely, and gilding flake takes really well to it. Right. Remember where you put it. So just press it in to the glue, if you can remember where you've put the glue. Why do I do this to myself? Definitely put some glue over there. Maybe, here's a top tip, do as I say, not as I do, and all of that. Do the glue in one area, then do the gilding flake, then move to the next area. That's probably going to be a little bit easier. That was a bit easier. Yes, I know I've got gilding flake everywhere. I'll pick that up with some tape later. Or just work that into the glue. I want a bit in the middle there. Okay, just a tiny bit more. Right. Glue, gilding flake. Fingers are lovely. And this is why I do the shopping before my Facebook Live, so I don't go shopping looking like I have just stepped out of a gilding flake factory. So it's just adding those little patches. Tempted to put a little bit there. Now I have shut up my gilding flake pot, but it's all right. I've got enough on the desk to fill in that gap. But yeah, so don't be afraid of using glue stick with gilding flake. Okay, especially if you can get a nice strong one. So I can't find these at the moment. It's so annoying. Right. But Helen, busy. She always does that. It's quite amusing. She goes, oh yeah, I forgot. Okay. So could you tell her, please? Thanks. So I'm going to do a little bit of black just to give us a little bit of pop. So I've just squirted out some black paint, and I'm just sort of going to do some sort of almost sort of straight lines. Actually, it's going to be better with a piece of cardboard. That sticks a bit too cumbersome. Where's my cardboard? Okay. So just a few lines, and I'm keeping them sort of going crossways, different lengths, different pressures, just to give a little bit of a contrast which really starts to pop. Okay, I think, you know, you could come in with the end of paintbrush and add some little dots, but I think I'm happy with that. Now, yes, so I will. Okay, quickly give that a tiny little bit of a dry because I need to turn it over. And I don't want to smudge those. See how that black just really pops? Now, obviously, you could leave this like this as a journal page, add a greeting, but what I love to do with these is cut them up small. But because the whole point of this is to not worry about something, to liberate yourself, and just enjoy the process. So I've got to check I'm not standing on a dog who's decided to sit right under my feet. Let me just, where's my spray? Bear with me a moment, because I normally have, there it is, a bottle of spray. Just because we're going to be doing white in a minute. I can't tell you enough of how much fun something like this is. It is pure crafty without the stress of your having to do something specific. Right. Now we want to make it into squares that we can use. So we turn it over. By turning it over, we are not forcing ourselves to aim for a particular bit. I need to get Paul to look at that camera. It's struggling to focus. Might need to swap the cameras around next week. Right, so take something, doesn't matter what. Something, could be a ruler, but you're not using it for measuring. You're just needing a straight edge. So I am using a piercing guide from my sewing frame. And you're just going to line up, draw a line. And you do that all the way along the back. I do this a lot, so apologies if you've seen me do this before. Okay, and then we're going to flick and we're going to go the other way. Now this is longer, obviously, so we just carry it on. So you're just gridding up the back. So you could do this with your trimmer, you know, but that would require a little bit of measuring. But work. Oh yeah, and Robin, I miss Robin. I do miss Robin. Yeah, I had some pictures come up that was us doing. I can't remember what the workshop was, but yeah, we used to have a lot of fun. Okay. And I am going to still do this one, even though it is almost the right. I do want these to be square, so I am going to trim off that tiny little bit. But it's important to work on the back because you're not having any preconceptions then. Okay, so now we're just going to start chopping it up. Okay. Listen to that noise, all those layers we're going through. I am aware that the texture paste won't be fully dry, so we might have some chippage. And I don't mean spare chippies like the seagulls. If anybody knows why I say spare chippies, you've got to check out the spare chippy gull. Somebody has done a little animation where they've drawn arms on a seagull, and he runs around with a sign saying spare chippies. It just makes me laugh every time. And now Melissa and I, every time, you've still got your panda pen. Everybody reads panda pen. Every time Melissa and I see seagulls, we have to go spare chippies. We're very disappointed in Tobermory because we sat on the side eating chips and the seagulls didn't come near us. We're very rude. Right, so we're getting there. I don't need all of these, but I am going to chop them all up anyway. And I'm not going to turn them over until they're all done. Oh, that's a bit thick. You can tell when you're going through embossing powder and the like. This is just on it. I can't, till you've done it, you can't imagine how liberating this is. Now that bit fell off, so I would find where it came from and glue it back on. But I won't need to today for this. Okay, you ready for the reveal? So look at all these fabulous little tiles of beauty. Right, so that's where that one came from. So I'm just going to stick that back on because we might want that. So that one piece of paper That one piece that we've done. Look at all these toppers we've got, all these little bits that we can use. Add a greeting to them, matte and layer them. Matte and layer them on black and add them to the front of a card. Looked lovely, thank you, Sue. It did make me laugh because that's what we're doing today. They're just beautiful. Just look at them. But because you've done that thing by cutting them up and using the back of it, you've not tried to get that. You've not ended up with, it's all gone random. And I've said it many times before, those people that struggle with random, actually the best random is where you remain with an element of control. So the element of control here was that we had a grid on the back. So we controlled the fact, and it meant that what we were getting on the other side, we hadn't got control over. Right, so we've got all of them. Now we need, don't flick the stuff on the floor when the dog's asleep by your feet. Right, let's now make a circle waterfall. You need 2 different size circles. So I've got a side plate and an embossing powder pot. And then you want, by the way, in case you're wondering what a circle waterfall is, this is my, it does the waterfall like that. That's not a proper one. That's my crib, so I can remember because I get confused sometimes. Right, you want a fairly weighty paper, but not too weighty because we want to be able to fold it. Okay, so put your plate down and draw around it. Just make sure that whatever size you want your waterfall to fit in, so if you're wanting it to fit in an A5 journal, make sure the circle you start with fits on the A5 page. Okay, and you're going to cut that out. Now this is only the mechanism, so don't get too hung up if your circle is not perfect. It will still work, okay? Don't make things more complicated for yourself than it needs to be. I'm gonna have to motor on this. We might run over tonight, guys. That was more aimed at my husband, by the way. Right, don't need him yet. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold our circle in half and then in half again. Okay, and we're going to unfold it and fold it back on itself because we need all of these to be super creasy. Okay, and then we're going to fold it like that as well. Okay. We could fold again, but it starts to get too hard. So what we're going to do now is we're going to unfold. And that one we've just created, we're going to do a half and a half. And then we're going to take that and fold it to there. We're going to take that and fold it to there. So we're just halving each of these, and just do it slowly and just however you can get in to do these extra halves. Okay, so even if you have to unfold and fold on a different line so that you can get into them, that's a bit easier. You can do that. You just need to make sure that each of those sections is divided again. Okay, so you've got all these different sections. Okay, that's what we're aiming for. Now we need to cut out about 1/4. Okay, don't need that. And do you remember that other circle we had? We need to take that out of the middle. So put that down, draw around it and cut that out. And it's a lot easier to do that with that section cut out. Okay, so we've got a very crinkly 3/4 of a circle, a crinkled Pac-Man. The reason we don't do the middle circle earlier on is it's really hard to get your halves if that is not in the middle, because you can't see your points. And then all we're going to do is we're going to now fold all of these the same direction, getting the crease nice and crisp. Okay, because those lines we just did was really just to help divide it up. Okay, all the way round. There we go. And that last one. That's the basic mechanism done. Keeping up, so. Right. So that first one there is going to get stuck to the card. Okay. My poor one, that one, gets stuck to the card. And then we're going to attach little toppers all the way round. Now, I, for this, like to use double-sided tape. So I'm not waiting for glue to dry. Okay, and we're going to add the tape to the crease line. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you're really good at folding, you could obviously divide this up again and have even more images on here. But this is enough for me. Whereas at this point in the night, it starts to get really warm in here. Because the lights, you've got the lights and everything. So how Marvin doesn't melt by my feet, I don't know. So I'm just going along and adding the double-sided tape. This is finger lift just to make it a little bit easier for me. Okay, and you notice I'm starting at the right-hand side and going round, because that is the way that it is going to rotate. Okay, so when we come to stick our layers on in a second, we do it starting at this side so we get the correct overlap. I'm assuming most people have done a normal waterfall before and know that, you know, you've got to make sure that things are overlapping in the right way. So here we go. Last one. It's just a case of peel off. And to make it easier, I'm not sticking my toppers on yet. I'm just going to put the mats on. Okay. You just follow them along so that they're sitting on the crease. Okay. My circle's a little bit big, but actually it doesn't hurt when you're watching to be able to see where they're sitting within the pattern. Okay. It was a little bit tricky trying to pre-plan rectangles and things without having it folded up, but you'll get the idea. And I've got enough squares I could do two. I could actually trim the black to fit better, but I didn't want you to see me trimming all the black down. Right, nearly there. Round we go. So you notice that you're sticking it down along the crease. You're doing all right, so. Okay. Now, I have one panel tucked underneath. We don't stick anything to that panel. Okay. Round we go. Last one, and I didn't count how many panels we've got here. Right, so that is the basic mechanism. All right. Now what we need is a handle and something to turn it with and a card to put it on. So first things first, let's position this in the middle. And then I need a hole roughly in the middle. So where's my awl? And the hole is going to go through my little cardboard and through there. Okay, so I need to glue my waterfall, and I am going to use wet glue for this. Okay, might not be able to fully turn it straight away, but I do want this to be well stuck down. So that hole needs to be roughly in the middle, okay? And then this, which is a box, you want it to be a little bit sturdier, goes on the underneath here. So when we lift it up, it's going to go on the underneath, move my hand out the way, on the underneath there. But we need to make sure it's sitting in the middle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this with a brad. By the way, hardest thing I had today for this was finding my brads. Still couldn't find them, but found a random one, which had a weird pearl thing on, so I took the pearl off. Right, so at the moment this isn't doing anything, but I now need to attach my handle. You would normally cover that with something. I'm going to attach my handle to the back of the first section. So I'm going to put a bit of double-sided tape on it. Okay. Yeah, Sue and I have seen these and we're like, oh no, right, we need to work it out. And it's like, oh, it's every instruction I've seen, they've got compasses out and protractors and stuff. And I'm like, no, I need it to be easy. So I'm now just going to glue that to there. So we then just make sure, I've just remembered, I've got double-sided tape. So just because I've overstuck my double-sided tape, let's just make sure they're not all sticking. And then come on, it flicks. It's that double-sided tape. Right, I know what I need to do. Do you remember I said that this circle was too long? Right, bear with me. I need to get rid of that outer circle. Ignore this, it's because I put the tape to the edge. So by doing this, do you remember I said that circle doesn't need to be perfect? You can see it's sticking to my scissors. Right, round we go. So edit, because this isn't live, you know, I can edit this out, can't I, and say, just don't put the tape to the end, because the tape's sticking to the bit above. If you accidentally do like I've done and you're not confident cutting round like I am, take some talcum powder and rub it on the sticky. So if you've got sticky where you don't want it, put talcum powder or corn flour on it and it will take away the sticky. There we go. Right, we ready? Okay, and then back the other way. It all flicks over. Okay, so now let's start sticking our little colours on, our little coloured pieces. So again, I'm going to go with a bit of wet glue on my finger. So sometimes it's easier to actually run the waterfall and put your bits on. That doesn't sound dodgy at all. So flicking it round. This is really nice with photos on, and you could put a little bit of colour on the back of each one as it's flicking round, or have each of your squares in like an ombre. So as you flick round the colour, you're getting colour as well. I've done black because I knew black would set these off. This handle definitely needs to be card rather than cardboard or grey board or something, because it does need to be quite sturdy. Go over. Okay. But I say, if you get glue where you don't want it, just a bit of talcum powder or something, let's flick you over, so make sure that end is down. So if you find that it's sticking on there, I was putting a little bit of sellotape across there, so it's got a little bit of shine, so it sort of, it relieves the friction. So 3 more. And notice, even with picking these, I'm not overly looking at which ones I'm picking up because they're all fabulous. Oh, you don't want glue there. Right, last one. Come on. Go back the other way and squash them flat in a minute. There you go. Just before, make sure they're all as straight as they can be, because obviously I was rushing that a little bit. And then it is best, you hear me say this nearly every week, let it dry. There you go. Circle waterfall. Isn't that cool? So that's a real take on the original waterfall. I wouldn't go more than a quarter of way, because as you start to get round here, it just starts to get a little bit tight. So always when you're cutting out a section, cut out a quarter of it, and then that will give you, and the handle goes on the opposite end to where you fixed it down. And the more you do it, the freer it flows. There is instructions online to make paper brads with a little circle and stuff like that, but I find that they're just not strong enough. So you are better off using an actual brad for this, because you are doing quite a lot of pulling against it. See there, it just starts to get a little bit tight, because I've also gone quite thick with your layers. So if you find that, you know, take out an extra section. If you find that it's just, you could take out that last one, but you can see enough of them. I just think it looks lovely, and it works really nicely in journals as well. It's just really fun. So think of all those little toppers. Alex's next card for next year, I think so. But yeah, so don't do as I did, which is put the tape right to the edge, because it just, I needed to trim it down. But it's the mechanism. So actually it didn't matter that I've trimmed it down. You can't see it from there anyway. For the sake of a little bit, add dog paw right under my foot. Yeah, add a little bit of decorative to there. Obviously decorate this, put a little message on, turn for the magic or something like that. But it just flows really lovely. And again, use pattern paper for that. It just would be prettier, but I've just used the white to show you. So I hope that's something that you can give it can have a go at. Let me come back to the front. Yes, hope that's something that you'll have a go at. It's when I didn't think I'd be able to do a no measure version of it. So even if you only did 8 sections, so what's this got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, because you fold one over. You will always end up with an odd number because you fold one under. So it would have been 12. We took out 4. So it would have been 16 sections. So even if you did 8, I think it would still work. But yeah, give it a go and share your results. I will tidy this up a little bit and photograph it and stuff as I usually do. But also give the waste not, want nots a go. You know, they honestly are so liberating. And look, and I've still got all these fabulous little bits still that aren't on a card yet. And they're just, you know, you mat them onto a little bit of black and they're just little magical bits of art. And you saw it's just so liberating. So don't be scared of it. And also, at the end of the day, if you think, I'm not going to use that at all, what have you done? You've used your scraps and you've given yourself an hour of playing. So my waste not, want nots are something I swear by them. They're my mojo busters. They're my happy place. Because you never really know what you're going to do. And then when you add it to something like this circle waterfall, so it's so different. It will really, really have an impactful, great for, dare I say it, Christmas, but not for everybody. Do these for the special people. They're not as complicated as they look. Once you've done one or two, I would do a mock-up one like I did. That's just scraps of paper, just to get the idea. But also don't get too hung up on the fact that of your folds, they don't have to be spot on perfect. It will still flow round. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, I'm back next Wednesday. Bit busy week. Glass fusing, bookbinding. Normal day in the office. Facebook Live. Normal day. Paper making. Mira, paper making. So yeah, so busy time. Not back on Hobby Maker until towards the end of the month, but yeah, we'll be back next week, and I don't know how I'm going to top that one. I'll come up with something, but give it a go. And in the meantime, just enjoy, relax, and don't take it too seriously. And that's what Waste Not, Want Nots are all about. So hope you've enjoyed, and I will get this uploaded to YouTube. Sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it doesn't. It depends. Sometimes I go into YouTube and it goes 3 minutes remaining, and then suddenly goes to 53 minutes. So bear with me. But yes, I'll get it up and I'll take some photos of these. And in the meantime, have a good rest of the week, and we will see you very soon. Take care.